In today's episode, we're going to be talking about efficiency, productivity, and just simply getting more done. And I have Zach with me from Asian Efficiency, and he's got a podcast, they got a blog over there, they got a lot going on. So first off, thank you, Zach, so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So first question, tell me a little bit about your story. How did you get involved with this whole productivity efficiency thing?
Well, I was really bad at it. Um, I've always been somebody who's been excited by ideas, so I always like to try things out, and because of that, I didn't always finish those ideas that I started. So I'd be like, "Oh, this idea is cool," or "I should start meditating," or "I should start journaling," or "This workout routine seems like fun," and I would get 60 to 70% of the way there, and then the next shiny object would sort of pull me in the other direction. Finally, I read a book, and there's lots of productivity books out there. This is one of the more famous ones, the ones that have a lot of diehard fans. I'm actually speaking to the author in a couple days. It'll be actually on my birthday, which I do turn 30. So good thing you caught me right before I couldn't be on this podcast anymore. David Allen, and it's called Getting Things Done.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that book, and it really changed my life. The idea is that your brain is for having ideas, not for holding ideas. So he just describes a system where you can collect, review, and do all the things that you need to get done simply by writing them down. So if you've got an appointment, put it in your calendar. If you've got something that you want to do, maybe one of those exciting ideas like learning Spanish, I just listened to your episode on learning Spanish, very helpful. But that goes to my someday maybe list because I'm focused on other things right now. And if I spread my focus too thin, none of the balls that I want to move forward will move forward very quickly, which is a good way to peter out on things. If you focus on one thing, you'll get rapid results and be more motivated, and that's a little bit more sustainable in the long run. So that is what got me into it initially. I was sort of in transition. I had followed the traditional route, and I listened to your intro on your podcast, and it really resonated because you do. I did all the things that you did. You got good grades. You go to college. You try to get a traditional job outside of college. I was business and economics. I was like, oh, okay, what should I do? Maybe government would work for me. No, that didn't work quite well. Baking, ooh, that was terrible. I don't pay attention to detail. That's not good. Losing thousands of dollars. Not really. Actually, it's always 2 cents. I couldn't balance the tray at the end of the day. I even tried teaching, and I actually thought that would really be the career for me because I do get excited by ideas. I like to collect and organize information and share it in a useful way. But just the structure and the bureaucracy of it, as well as the fact that managing 120 kids at the same time had some different skill sets that I didn't have. So we can talk a little bit about what I ended up doing to figure out what my passion was. But that's what got me into productivity and is reading that book and getting so excited about it because I actually was following through with the obligations that I had promised. So I would get my oil change on time or zero my inbox, and with these little wins came bigger ones. I started a blog and actually started writing on it consistently, and I was so excited by the idea that I just started to teach everybody in my life about it because that's what I enjoy doing, and eventually ended up just starting a business. Got some business cards and it started helping small business owners with this sort of information age problem that people have is having too much information to deal with it and no concise way to organize it and take useful action on it. From there, I met Taryn and the guys at Asian Efficiency, and I've been joining up with them for the last year and a half on the Anglo inefficient one, but I'm kind of efficient. But yeah, if you're watching this on video, I'm not of Asian descent.
Well, perfect. So let's start off with if someone were to come to you and say, hey, I just want to be more efficient. I want to be more productive. They're a little bit scatterbrained. Let's just say the typical person, typical client you run into, what is the first thing you do? Like, what's the first thing you have them do?
The baseline is just write things down. The better you can systematize that, the more easy your life is going to be. I feel like that's the bottom up approach, is to start with writing things down so you know what's on your horizon. You know what promises you've made to other people, what promises you've made to yourself. Where are some areas? What are some projects that you're working on? What are those next actions of those projects that you're working on, so you can actually take a little bit more action on your goals rather than just saying like, oh boy, you know, Spanish, want to learn that, versus now that I listened to your episode on Spanish, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to listen to these audio tapes first because that seems like a good place to start, and then I'll go to Pimsleur, and then I'll go to some meetups, and having actions, because next actions are easier to take than just ambiguous ideas. So writing all of your thoughts down and organizing them in a fashion. When you write them down, write them as next actions, not as kind of do this or kind of do that. So that's where I always start with people. A lot of the people that I talk to and I work with these days are already past that first level. So I'm always happy to get them to the next level. A lot of times I'm working with business owners again, so delegation is a huge one. And again, that takes just writing. You got to be able to write those tasks down, or maybe create a video or take some pictures and be able to delegate that. A lot of it, I'm sure your listeners would be into, is automation. There's a lot of automation tools out there that you can use to get things done that are on a repeated basis that you don't want to necessarily have to think about. If then that IFTTT.com is a great resource if you want to look into a little bit of easy automation.
Okay, so there's a lot of different things I want to jump into there. So the first thing you said is just start writing things down, and that's a great step, but I can write a lot of things down and it seems like it gets lost. So after you write it down, what do you recommend people do with it?
Yeah, that's a great leading question, because I should have said that after the writing things down part, there's a few different areas where you can put your to-dos. A lot of people like digital, since most people carry their smartphones on them at all times. I'd recommend downloading some sort of to-do app. Todoist, Asana, Trello, OmniFocus is something that we teach people how to use over at Asian Efficiency. There's a lot of great to-do list managers, and then get some sort of system for it. So my system is any thought or potential action that I have goes into my inbox, and it's just, I use Trello, and I just write it down in there. And from there, if it's a next action that I need to take, I'll just put it in the next action list, and I have a list of all the next actions that I have to do that week or that month. After that, it might be a project. Maybe it's something a little bit bigger. I'm writing a longer article right now, and so that's a project, and I just put that in there as a project. Also, an important file that to have, or a list to have, is someday maybe. So someday maybe I'm going to do this. Someday maybe I'm going to learn. I'm just going to keep repeating Spanish. I do want to learn that, but it's not my focus right now. So having that list of and having it organized is a way to basically have a dashboard for your life. But the dashboard doesn't stay organized unless you actually proactively prevent the entropy, and the way to do that is to review it. And most people, reviewing weekly works well. If you've got a lot of little one-off tasks to do, daily or even a handful of times a week would be a good time to go in and look at all your to-dos and see what you need to be taking action on now. Something that we always recommend for people for having a productive day is to actually plan the night before, decide the 2 or 3 big tasks that you actually want to get done, and then start taking action on them. And you can just pull that from your next actions list or your projects list.
So you've talked about the someday maybe file a lot, and what is that how is that organized for you? Because is it just a lot of bullet points that says, hey, someday I'd like to learn Spanish, by the way, here are some of the different books I should read when I do, or how do you organize that?
Here, I will share my screen with you. That works, right?
Yeah, and then just for the listeners, let's make sure and explain what's going on as well.
And I'll make sure I describe it at the same same time. So here's my board for the people that are watching. So there's in process, next action, projects waiting on, and someday maybe. And with the someday maybe, I've got one card on there that says growth, and in that growth one, I've got video, podcasting, coaching, business, productivity, personal finance, health, fun, and just the new checklist I created for Spanish. Just haven't labeled it yet. I'll label it right now. All right. And so for the Spanish example, I say Michael Thomas Spanish, which is what you recommended for that. Then
It's actually Michelle, just to let you know.
Oh, it's Michelle. All right.
Yeah, but it's a guy's name. They just, for whatever reason, it's Michelle.
Okay. Well, Michelle Thomas. And then the Spanish Podcast 101 that you recommended, Spanish Notes, Read Harry Potter in Spanish, Simpsons in Spanish, Benny Lewis, Couchsurfing Meetups. So these are the things that I'll do when it's time for me to learn Spanish. And then eventually my intention would be to go and really immerse myself in another country. But that's how it looks for me, is that I just write it down there. And the fact that I have all these different areas, it's like, well, I want to learn how to do video a little bit better sometime. And so these are some resources I found. Wistia Library, DIY Video Guide, another website with some video resources. So when it's time for me to focus more on video, then I'll focus on video. But since that's not my main focus right now, I'm not going to worry about it. But I don't have to keep thinking about, oh man, what was that thing for the video that I wanted to do? Mm-hmm. Those thoughts don't pop up because I have it written down and I know it's in this place that I can trust and that it's just there for me.
You know, Getting Things Done was a really big book for me too. I don't go to quite the extreme lengths that he talks about in the book, but I completely agree with you. I love the idea of, hey, your brain is for thinking and creating new things. It's horrible at remembering things. And this is something in my company I always tell people. It's like, look, if you need to remember something, write it down, because even the faintest pencil is better than the best memory. So what are some of the mistakes, the biggest mistakes you see your clients making, or people in general?
Some big mistakes. I think the biggest one comes down to the reviewing. It's not too difficult to get in the habit of writing things down, but it is difficult to get into the habit of taking what you've written down and organizing it and collecting it in a manner that is actually effective for you. That seems to be the biggest struggle when it comes to actually having an organized task list. The bigger struggles that people have as well are just planning. It comes down to the same thing, planning their days, planning their weeks. I think I read a statistic recently that 3% of Americans have written goals and only 1% of them review them daily. So I mean, the fact that 97% of people spend more time maybe planning their next trip to Cancun than planning their life might be something that I tend to work with people.
That's really interesting. So let's talk about the review process, because every Sunday I do a review type process. And actually, funny enough, I just interviewed another person who does the same thing every Sunday, reviews the process. But what does your review process look like? We have a big list of all these things that we want to get done. How do you actually figure out what you should do in that review process?
Yeah, so mine is Sunday. It's 15 to 20 minutes. I go and I look through that in-process list, and sometimes it's a URL or a book. And if it's a book and I look it up and Amazon reviews look good, it seems like something I want to read. I've got an Evernote list that I keep all the books that I want to read, throw it in there. If it's a website and it looks interesting, I go and I look at it. If it's something I want to go back to and read later, I'll throw it in Pocket and read it later. Or if it's not something I'm interested in, just throw it out. But if it is something that's actionable, I then think about, okay, well, what's the next action on this? And I don't have an example ready. Yeah, I already
That's
closed.
Okay. So you talked about writing.
I don't know. Yeah. So I would take that next action and decide if it needs to be done now, or thrown on my someday maybe list, or something I could delegate out to somebody else on the Asian efficiency team.
Awesome. Okay, so you talked about writing down goals, and How do you write down your goals? Where do you put them so that it's a constant reminder? Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, actually, that's the article that I was just writing is how I write and more of how I actually manage to get myself to review my goals every single day. So I have my goals written in Evernote, and it's actually that time of year for me. I decided because I don't want to be the normal person and create new goals on January 1st like a lot of people do. I do it around my birthday time.
Okay.
And since I'm going to be 30 in 4 days now, that's feel pretty old. I'll rewrite my annual goals at that point, and I just have this file in Evernote. It says, "What do I want?" And it has some of the quotes that I resonate with right at the top. To change the world and have a hell of a good time is one that I kind of like to live by or to explore and discover. But at the very top of that list, I always have a current hyper focus because you can have a lot of different goals in a lot of different areas of your life, health or wealth or relationships or travel, whatever it may be. But it's best to focus only on one, maybe two key areas. But I find one is best. I actually, on our podcast, The Productivity Show, had Jay Papasan, who wrote The One Thing, on, and he
Mm.
really hammered that point home. And after reading the book and talking to him, I agree. I went from three to one, and right now mine is to be a killer productivity coach and grow our coaching program at Asian Efficiency. So that's my hyper focus. I'm not learning Spanish right now. I'm not traveling right now. I'm not trying to do some crazy health goal right now. But I do have the rest of those written for what I want the rest of the year to look like. And what I'm going to rewrite in the next couple days is basically a journal entry to myself.
Mm.
So last year on August 24th, I wrote, I'm so grateful for the last year. And this last year I've traveled to many new places, including Thailand, Singapore, Alaska, LA, Austin, and London, and have connected with many exciting people attending different events throughout the world, including South by Southwest and Tony Robbins. My personal cash flow, my assets, my time, my job and business, my team, and these are after all these, my customers, my partner, my health, my family, my friends, my purpose, my contribution, all of those things I write what I want
Mm.
for this coming year. But I write it as if it already happened from a place of gratitude. And the crazy thing is, and this is the first year I've done this, I would say I'm at it like 86%.
Nice.
Most of this stuff has happened. I've gone to these places. My assets are where I want them to be. My job and business is where I want it to be. It's really worked out well. So I'm gonna just do it again because I had such success with it. And to review this daily, this was a struggle. I had a hard time doing this. I tried all different tricks to make myself to do it. And the one thing that ended up working for me was to set up an automatic text where the it would say it's 8 o'clock, because that's when I set the text to go to. Um, Time to review your goals. And it was a
Mm.
hyperlink to Evernote. And so all I had to do is when I got that text, I looked at it, I'm like, oh yeah, boom. And it opened up Evernote in my phone, and the goals were reviewed at that point. So I automated it. I outsourced it.
I want to talk a little bit about the automation. We kind of hinted at it earlier, and you talked about like if this, then that, and a couple other things. What are some of the most exciting ways you see people automating it, and how would you recommend the average person try to start automating their life more?
Well, the tools that I use, one of them I'm learning now and I'm having a lot of fun with is called Keyboard Maestro.
Okay.
That's a quick way to get your Mac to do a number of steps versus just one step. One that most people can use and most people should use is called Text Expander. So
Mm-hmm.
it's Text Expander if you have a Mac, or Breevy, I believe is the name of the Windows version. And what it is just a little keyboard shortcuts that you can create. I like to always start the shortcuts with the letter X. I used to use the semicolon, but I got the phone app, and semicolons are kind of hard to get on the phone. So I start with an X, and then some sort of little reminder that I'll remember. So for example, if I want to say no to something, I've got X, no, and then a nice email that says, oh man, I'd love to, but I'm really busy right now, I can't do it, pops out, and I don't have to rewrite that email over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Once you start using it, you'll realize how many things that you write on a repeated basis over and over and over again, and it actually tells you how many hours it saves inside the application. You could look it up and be like, oh, you've saved, if you write 80 words per minute, you've saved 3 days using
Wow.
Text Expander. So that's a super low-hanging fruit. Zapier is another one. It's a little bit more business oriented. It gets different applications to talk to each other. So for example, we just started a little bonus thing called Bonusly in our messaging service. So what you can do is different team members get different bonuses based on other team members giving them bonuses. So I just gave Marmel, who is uploading an article for me because I was a little late to uploading actually that article that I was talking about, and I needed to come talk with you. So I said, Marmel, can you upload this for me? And I gave her a little bonus. And the Bonusly and HipChat, which is kind of like Slack, integrated with each other using Zapier. So that's
Hmm.
another integration you can use. But Text Expander, just it costs $20, $30. It is so worth the investment. It will save you so much time in the long run.
I love that. We got to wrap up here pretty quickly, but I want to ask you one more really important question, especially since you're about to turn 30. What general advice, any advice that you wish you would have known earlier on, or that you just want to tell the audience about, any advice you wish you would have known, I guess?
Take some time before you jump into a career.
Mm.
Follow the advice that is in every single intro. Really keep that top of mind. Jumping into things just because you think they might be a good fit or you might like it. You know, sometimes experience is the best way to learn. But if you can avoid some of that pain by just getting a little introspective on yourself, what I ended up using after 3 false starts to my career, I started meditating, and I used this Deepak Chopra meditation. I don't know if you can make fun of me uh, for doing that, or it's a little woo-woo, but it asked me to ask myself or ask my subconscious 3 questions. What do I want? How can I serve? Using my unique skills and abilities. What do I want? Oh, how can I give value and using my unique skills and abilities? So maybe 2 things. But I listened to that meditation about 3 times. It was a 21-day meditation, and I just saw what bubbled up, and I was able to finally pinpoint an area of life that I wanted to go to. So don't jump in feet first to some corporate job just because maybe the health benefits are good or your grandma would be happy. Figure it out for yourself. There's so much opportunity out in the world. You can travel. You can work from remotely. You can create a business online like you did. I mean, when I heard your story, I was just like, you figured it out quick. My show would be how to not do your 20s because it took to my later 20s before I figured this stuff out. So kudos on you for doing it so well.
Well, that was great advice. I'm all about meditation and that kind of stuff, taking some time. And really, meditation does sound woo-woo, but it's really just like, hey, take a break and listen to what you're actually thinking and realize, is it craziness or is it really something that I want? Let me ask you, Zach, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I write on Asian Efficiency's blog, so asianefficiency.com, zacharysexton.com. I don't write on there as much anymore, or at ZWSexton on Twitter. You can reach out there. I'm on there probably a little too much. That's my distraction.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, make sure you hit the big red subscribe button down below. You can also check me out on Facebook and on Twitter, and I release a new video every Monday, and by hitting that subscribe button, you'll get those new videos every Monday. And this is really a podcast. It's also a website. You can check out the website. It's howtodoyour20s.com. I'll put a link right over here as well. And what it's all about is trying to improve your life. And we specifically focus on things that people in their 20s are interested in. So make sure you like the video if you liked it. Subscribe. Like us on Facebook and Twitter, whatever. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again on another video.